You may have heard of the judge, or the frustrated judge preparing to hear a divorce case. The judge asked the woman, "Why do you want a divorce?" The judge asked. "On what grounds?" "Grounds, Your Honor?" The woman said. "Yes, Your Honor. We have 1.5 acres of grounds adjacent to our home." "No, no, no," said the judge. "That's not what I meant. I meant, do you, madam, do you have some grave problems with your spouse?" "Grave problems, Your Honor?" "No, Your Honor, we don't have grave problems. We both plan to be married in the same cemetery on the other side of town." "No, you don't seem to understand," said the judge impatiently. "Does he beat you up?" "Oh, no, Your Honor, he doesn't beat me up. I'm usually up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He normally gets up later. I get up to do the work." "Please, ma'am," said the frustrated judge, "what is the reason you want a divorce from this man?" "Oh," she replied, "we can't seem to communicate with each other." Problems. And sometimes people think, well, because I said I do, and I live in the same house, and we sleep in the same bed, we sit at the same table, that automatically, because we use adjoining space, we're going to have a great marriage. But one of the most important things in marriage, if you can remember this, is what? Communication. Someone said, the most important thing you ask when you're buying property is location, location, location. In marriage, it's communication, 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 learning to communicate. And so we want to look at a few things that are maybe hindrances to communication, and we've written a few out here. And just want to consider this. A couple needs to learn to communicate. They got married so they would learn to have communication. And these are what some of the marriage experts say are the 4 hindrances to proper communication in the home, okay? Think about them. Number 1, schedules. Okay? Both the husband and wife are busy, very busy, right? Very busy. Do you agree? Okay, life is very busy. We say hurry, hurry, worry, bury, and then in India we say curry. We're very busy. You have work, you have house jobs, you have the kids, you have extended family to visit, you have a lot of errands, a lot of things that make life very busy. And in all the schedules and all the issues, we find that as a couple, how do we communicate? So communication. And what do we do for that? We have to take what? Time to communicate. Quality time. Time at the breakfast table, time at the dinner table. Very basic things. But we have to make that a priority that we are communicating. On the weekends, going out on a vacation, taking time out to communicate. That's something we have to put as a priority. Very important. Schedules. Number 2, kids. Kids, very interesting, right? Kids are the biggest blessing. Ask a family that say, "Oh, I love my kids. We love our kids." Kids were the result of intimacy, but could you know this? Kids can actually become the hindrance to intimacy. Ask parents who have little toddlers. You know, for the next 22 years of your life, a parent basically is giving care to somebody that needs to, about 18 years of their life has been given to somebody who really needs them a lot. When they're a toddler, baby, they just need mom and dad. Good parents don't say no when the kid is crying in the night. They say, "Hold on a second, I'm sleeping right now." When the kid goes a little bigger and is 2 and 3 years old, the parents are very involved in teaching the kids social skills, education, the ABCs. Then you have the teenage time, and the teenage time is a time when they're figuring out questions and answers. And good parents have to be involved. They have to be interacting, because you don't know when the kid is going to ask you a good question and you need a good answer. And good parents don't say, "Come back later, I'll talk to you about it later." Kids and parents just have to interact with kids, and if you're 1 or 2 or 3, the communication lines get much more. Very busy. And in all of these things, guess what can happen so often? parents don't get a chance to talk to each other. I heard a story of a husband and wife that were finally had put their 5-year-old to sleep, and he goes to bed at 8 o'clock in the night, but from 8 o'clock every 20 minutes he'd get up and he wants something. Daddy, can I have some water? Mom and Dad are trying to get talk time. And the third time it happened, so now the parents said, the dad said to David, little David, David, this is the last time I'm giving you water. So he gives him water. 30 minutes later, David comes, Daddy, I'm thirsty. And so Daddy says to David, David, if I come up right now, I'll give you 2 hard spanks. It's about 10-second silence, and then David replies back, Daddy, after I get the 2 hard spanks, can I get a glass of water, please? All parents know what that means. And so we have to be very sensitive to understand something. Now listen carefully. This would make sense to you. Or probably will make sense to you now, or maybe much more later. When kids finally leave the nest, many times parents go through what is called the empty nest syndrome. Kids you've been looking after for 20 years, that took all of your effort as parents, now have left the nest. And you know what happens many times is parents sometimes find out that for 20 years they never had time for each other. And because of the kids, they had all their quabbles and all their problems and everything else, but they never took time to build their own relationship. And they end up 20 years later in their 50s like 2 strangers living in a home that really just don't know what to do. And whatever relationship they have left, they've got to start building up all over again. I want to say something really important. That doesn't have to happen. All parent marriage counselors will say the same thing. They will say, yes, 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 love your kids. Yes, 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 invest in them and train them. Yes, do everything you can for them. But never neglect the most important relationship, a husband and wife. Don't neglect your spouse. That was the one relationship you're going to have for the rest of your life. There's a day coming when your children are going to leave the nest. They're going to get married. And that was the day you were preparing them for. And you shouldn't be trying to hold them back. That was the very reason that they were raised up for. And you should be a very cheerleading kind of mom and dad, happy to let them go, and happy that they're building their own home, and they're having children and grandchildren, and there's a legacy being left behind as we're preparing for heaven. That's no problem with that. But the point is this, that in those times of those 20 years when you're raising kids, don't neglect this most important relationship. Husbands, date your wives. Go out, spend time with her. Go out for a coffee. Go out. I love this. One of the couples in our church so beautifully. They just say this. They got 2 young kids, and they just keep the kids at home with somebody. And then every week they take off and they go out for a little dinner together and spend 2-3 hours. And I was so touched about it. It was so beautiful. Another couple said, "Yeah, Pastor, I understand. That's exactly what happened. We took 18 years, 20 years to raise our kids, and then we had to rebuild our whole relationship again because it took that long to build our relationship." And this is real communication.